Hey, you here? So where else could you be but here? Yep, you're right in the beginning of the Paul Leslie Hour with a review of Jeff Bridges' previously unreleased songs from the 1970s. Almost half a century? Ooh! It's entitled Slow Magic, 1977-1978, on the Light in the Attic label. We're going to delve into Paul's reflections and even play a couple of clips from Paul's now 20-year-old interview with Jeff Bridges. Time for the review to begin. So, what'd you think, Paulie?
Jeff Bridges' Slow Magic is a lost tape come to light, brimming with raw experimental vibes and creativity. From trippy spoken word tracks to space-like instrumentals, this archival release feels like a friend sharing something personal. Here's why you might like it. There's a certain quality that home recordings and demos have, a rawness that lets you hear an artist putting it out there. The funny thing is that so often those song recordings that the public wasn't necessarily intended to hear often hit harder than those final mixes carefully perfected in the studio. I may have broken one or two musician friends' hearts by admitting I liked their demo more than the polished studio recording that they worked hard at producing. Most of you know Jeff Bridges as the movie star, but he's been a singer-songwriter since the late 60s. I first became aware of his music back in 2004 or 2005 when I hosted a weekly show on Jimmy Buffett's Radio Margaritaville. He was the first big-name person I ever interviewed. He told me about how his creativity with music started early on. Listen.
How did you get this passion for music?
Well, God, I can't remember not loving it. I remember my brother back in the, this was the early 60s, late 50s, got a Van Electro, a white Van Electro guitar. I kind of took it over and started playing on it. And, the great thing about these guitars, you can kind of teach yourself. The chords are just pictures of where you put your fingers. So I had a ball, looking up tunes that I liked, just trying to play them and that kind of thing. And then I started to write music with the knowledge of the chords that I learned. I just started to kind of make up songs and stuff. And that's really took off. And I started doing that more than playing other people's songs.
Stayed in touch all of these years, and he's never made it seem like he was this untouchable star. Let me state for the record, that's not the norm. I always liked his stuff, because he always seems like he'd be writing and recording the songs in his repertoire, even if nobody else resonated with them. To quote an Alex Harvey lyric, I won't make my music for money. No, I'm gonna make my music for me. I've followed his music releases ever since the debut, and he's always stayed true to himself. You can hear it. But as this new release reveals, that's what he was doing with his songs even before his debut, Be Here Soon. This latest title, Slow Magic, is a new release of an old recording. It's the kind of thing I like, a tape tucked away that surfaced. At 38 minutes, it feels like something a friend shared with you. This archival recording has a strong experimental theme, an attitude of, what if we tried this, permeates the tracks. Bridges told me he likes Captain Beefheart, and you'll pick up on that wild, free-spirited vibe when you listen to Slow Magic. The songwriting is impressive, as are the performances. Strong points include the title track, Slow Magic, especially suited to horns. It almost feels like songs from the early 60s. I would be curious to hear Jeff sing it these days. There are some really far out there things on the album, like Here on This Island. For those of you who seek those recordings that are like nothing else, here you go. Amongst the trippy musical brushstrokes, the late great Burgess Meredith recites what could only be called spoken arts. There's an ambience that pulls you in, bizarre yet oddly comforting. I love that Burgess Meredith said, okay, let's try this. That's the heart of Slow Magic, fearlessness. All of Bridges' records, aside from Sleeping Tapes, feature some of John Goodwin's songs. Goodwin is one of the most compelling music and visual artists I've ever encountered. I was fascinated with Goodwin's songs from the very first time I heard them. Here's Jeff Bridges on Goodwin. Listen.
Yeah, well, Johnny and I, we go back to the fourth grade together, and he's one of those guys that I was speaking about who's kept my music fires burning because he's such a wonderful songwriter.
On Slow Magic, the song Light Blues showcases Goodwin's trademark witty writing. You should listen to more of Goodwin's songs. Bridges and Goodwin were cut from the same cloth and mesh well. You Could Be Ready would have been the most radio-friendly song from this selection. It has a breezy, optimistic vibe to it that makes you think of driving with your windows open. The album closes out with a very atypical track entitled Kong. I'm happy Jeff and Meredith Burgess committed to the vision of this track. You've got to do what you feel when it comes to creative impulse. If it keeps returning to your mind, you have to let it out. And what you dreamed up long ago, maybe, just maybe, will appear at the right time. Slow Magic came out when it was supposed to. It's a reminder of what it feels like to chase a wild idea, then to try it again. Thanks so much for listening to my review. I hope you give the album a listen, and by all means, let me know what you think.